Picture this. A peaceful, moonless night over the South China Sea. A modern Boeing 777 cruises at 35,000 feet, carrying 239 souls through the darkness. The pilots make a routine radio call. Good night, Malaysian 370. And then, silence. Today, we're diving into one of the most perplexing mysteries in aviation history. A case where international search efforts costing hundreds of millions of dollars have left us with more questions than answers. So stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries, because this is Final Boarding Call. Hello, and welcome to Final Boarding Call. I'm your disaster-obsessed host, Alice.
And I'm Zach, your stay-at-home hubby, who is also known as Fix-It Felix Jr.
You know what's crazy? In our last episode, we were talking about how you were fixing the washer-dryer, and we recorded that like a week and a half ago.
Ugh. And we just got a new one yesterday.
Folks, the washer-dryer one.
I hate electrical issues. I'm not an appliance tech, all right? I said that before, and I'll say it again. Mm-hmm. But an electrical issue that you fix one thing, which is just replacing a sensor.
So true.
And then it shorts out and goes into something else and ruins that. And then shorts out and goes into something else and ruins that. And next thing you know, they're like, oh, well, it's a $1,300 part that's fully covered under warranty. But then it's $1,300 of labor. Folks, this machine costs $1,400. We are not spending $1,300 to fix it.
Oh, no. Okay, so we have a new washer dryer. And by new, we found one for $400 off Marketplace.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Before we dive in.
Did you see how funny that was, though? Who I got it from?
It was the family that bought my mom's old car,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's really crazy. That came full circle. Before we dive in, a quick reminder to our listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, this is a biggie, you guys.
Dive in.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Up. There's details galore.
I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce some names, so let's just prepare ourselves for
what
that.
Else is new?
What else
Am
is
I right?
new? Okay, sources. We have a Mayday Air Disasters, which you know I love. This is season 14, episode 11, called What Happened to Malaysian Flight 370. And then we also have the Australian Transport Safety Bureau's final investigation report. And then Mentor Now did a video on this because there have been some updates that have happened in the past. Oh, honey.
I'm trying to drink all dainty and quiet. And
it didn't go well. Okay. Mentor Now came out with a video about some updates. So all sources are listed in the show notes. Let's dive in. It's Friday evening, March 7th, 2014, at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. The sprawling terminal bustles with travelers heading home, business people finishing their trips, families beginning vacations. Gate C1 is preparing for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, an overnight service to Beijing, China. On the tarmac sits the aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, registration 9MMRO. The ER stands for extended range.
They got extra fuel.
Which is kind of cool. So that means that this version of the 777 can fly longer distances. This particular plane has been in service for nearly 12 years, and it has accumulated over 53,000 flight hours without any major incidents.
Love that.
Yep. The 777, as pilots call it, has an impeccable safety record, one of aviation's most trusted workhorses. Inside the terminal, 227 passengers are going through the familiar pre-flight routine. They're a diverse group representing 14 different nationalities, though the majority, 153 people, are Chinese nationals returning home. Among them are families with young kiddos, elderly couples, a group of artists returning from an exhibition, and 20 employees from the American technology company Freescale Semiconductor. Which means something to me, but probably doesn't mean anything to you. For all of them, this is just another flight. Away from the passengers, Captain Zahari Hamed Shah and First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid review their flight plan. And here, we're going to spend a moment on Captain Zahari because his story will end up becoming pretty critical to the mystery. At 53 years old, Zahari is a veteran pilot. He has over 18,000 flight hours.
That's the kind of pilot you want.
100%. I mean, he has been with Malaysia Airlines since 1981, spanning his entire career with this carrier.
That's wild.
I know. Yeah. He serves as a flight instructor as well. So that speaks to both his skill and also the trust of the airline to have him training up-and-coming pilots. So by all accounts, from colleagues, from friends, from family, he is dedicated, he's meticulous, and he is deeply passionate about aviation. Outside of work, Zahari is married with 3 children. He's known for his enthusiasm for technology. He actually built his own flight simulator that he uses at home, which is really not that common. So unlike car enthusiasts, most pilots do not have
a sim rig at home.
A flight sim, just like chilling in their house. He is politically engaged. He is a supporter of Malaysian opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim. Oh, yeah, Ibrahim. I'm throwing a little Jewish twang on that because it's all I can do. He posts YouTube. It's all I've got, guys. He posts YouTube videos showing him fixing his home air conditioner and demonstrating flight maneuvers on his simulator. So, in short, he seems like a very average, family-oriented guy.
He's just a dad.
And he loves flying. This guy loves flying. Beside him sits 27-year-old First Officer Farik, who has right around 2,700 flight hours, and he is completing his training on the Boeing 777. So definitely younger, definitely fewer flight hours, but he's learning from the best. So he is described as a capable pilot with a promising career ahead, a young man who's excited about aviation, and he's recently engaged.
Well, good for him.
I know.
Oh, he found love.
He did. He found love. There is absolutely nothing in his background to suggest any concern or problems. Together, on this fateful day, they review the weather, which is favorable, their fuel load, which is 49,100 kilograms, which for our American folks is around 108,000 pounds. And that is enough for the journey, plus some in the reserves. And the expected flight path, which will take them northeast over the South China Sea toward Beijing. The flight should only take 5 hours and 34 minutes. So we're not talking about some
across the globe,
17-hour trek across the globe. Exactly, Zach. Yeah.
It seems like only the U.S. gets those anyway.
The trekking across the globe, because the rest of the world is like all smashed together. It's like, here's the U.S., and then literally on the other side of the world is every other continent.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of, I saw a a guy that had like a TikTok or an Instagram reel or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how other countries make fun of us for being less traveled. Haven't been, like, a lot of people
That's
don't
fair.
have passports and all kinds of things. And they're like, you have to scale how big the United States is and how many states that we have, because you can be in places near France and in 45 minutes be in a different country.
100%.
And it's very different than here.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would take you the better part of 2 days to drive across the U.S. from edge to edge.
Absolutely. You are spot on. And I actually have talked about this with my Europe team, my Europe marketing team at my company, because they will take a day off work on like a Friday and go see like 3 countries.
Yeah.
And I take a day off and I'm like, oh, I'm going to drive 40 minutes and like, it's going to be a big deal. And the incredible opportunities that come when your continent is a similar layout to the states of the United States. It's pretty incredible. Okay. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Here we go. At 12:42 a.m. local time, Flight 370 begins its takeoff roll on runway 32R. The powerful
That's right, y'all.
The powerful engines propel the fully loaded 777 down the runway until it lifts into the night sky, banking gently as it turns towards its northeasterly heading. So that's fancy talk for it made a turn and now it's heading northeast. As the aircraft climbs through the darkness, the crew follows standard procedures, communicating totally normally with air traffic control. At 1:01 a.m., they make a wish and then, no, I'm just kidding. They report reaching their assigned cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The cabin lights are dimmed for the overnight flight. Many passengers are drifting off to sleep. Some are watching movies. Everything is utterly and completely normal. No one, not the passengers settling in for the flight, not the pilots calmly managing the aircraft, not the air traffic controllers that are tracking the plane's progress, have any inkling that in just a few minutes, one of aviation's greatest mysteries will begin to unfold. At 1:19 a.m., as Flight 370 approaches the boundary between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace, First Officer Farik makes a routine radio call. Good night, Malaysian 370. These simple, mundane words would become infamous as the last known communication from the flight. There was nothing unusual in his tone. There was no tension, no hints of trouble, no indication of what was about to happen. 1 minute later, at 1:20 a.m., the aircraft passes a navigational waypoint called Iguri in the Gulf of Thailand. Think of waypoints as invisible checkpoints in the sky. So they are predetermined coordinates that pilots use as navigational references, similar to a mile marker on a highway. This particular waypoint marks where the plane transitions from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace.
Mm-hmm.
Just 5 seconds after passing this checkpoint, something really crazy happens. The plane's transponder stops transmitting.
Interesting.
Let me explain why this matters. A transponder is a crucial piece of equipment that broadcasts the aircraft's identity, altitude, position to the air traffic control radars. So without it, controllers can only see a very primary radar return, basically just the dot on the radar screen that we see in old, wartime movies about like the submarines that are coming. So basically that's all they're seeing. Yes. Like literally that's the whole thing. It is like the difference between seeing a car on the road and being able to read its license plate and also know its speed. So they can just see the dot. Vietnamese controllers, expecting to make contact with Flight 370, receive nothing but silence. They try repeatedly to reach the aircraft on different radio frequencies. The dot, that is Flight 370, continues moving across their radar screens for several more minutes and then vanishes. At 1:38 a.m., very puzzled Vietnamese controllers contact their Malaysian counterparts. "Where's your plane?" That is literally what they say to the other air traffic controllers. This begins hours of mounting confusion as controllers from different countries try to figure out where the hell this plane went.
Yeah.
What nobody knows at this moment, and what wouldn't be revealed until days later, is that Malaysian military radar has actually been tracking an unidentified aircraft.
So they had the correct one, and then when that transponder went dark, it just picked up a different one.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes. So they're going to have to figure out where it went.
Yeah, they have to start mathing backwards to find out where it was.
Where it actually disappeared.
Which was at 1:19, which was the last radio call.
According to this military radar data, after passing through the checkpoint, the aircraft makes a sharp left turn. So sharp that Boeing simulations would later show it must have been done manually because the autopilot would never allow such a steep bank angle. So that is critical.
Yeah.
The plane, which should just be an autopilot cruising, has been forced off.
And, and cut real hard. But for it to have already been in manual, it's almost like it was planned.
The plane then climbs to 45,000 feet, well above its certified ceiling, before descending rapidly to 23,000 feet. It flies back across the entire Malaysian peninsula, making another turn and proceeding northwest up the Strait of Malacca. Think about this scenario for a moment. A commercial airliner deviates dramatically from its flight path, crosses back over an entire country with no radio communication and no transponder signal, appearing only as an unidentified blip on military radar, yet no one attempts to intercept it? When later questioned about this, Malaysian officials would say that the aircraft was deemed non-hostile. And they said, if you're not going to shoot it down, what's the point of sending a fighter jet up?
Well,
the Malaysian officials, folks. Okay. This failure to identify and respond to the unidentified aircraft in real time represents one of several critical missed opportunities in the early hours. Military radar last detects the mystery aircraft at 2:22 a.m., about 200 nautical miles, which is like 230 miles, northwest of Penang, Malaysia.
It's a great name.
Then it vanishes from radar coverage entirely. As the night gives way to dawn, the situation grows increasingly alarming. At 5:30 a.m., more than 4 hours after communication was lost, Malaysian authorities finally activate their rescue coordination center. By 7:24...
Oh, after the plane was supposed to have already landed and people are freaking out.
I mean, my God. Crazy that it took that long. However, I'm very passionate about crisis comms, so it's fine. And I'm sure that their PR person was probably pissed that they learned about it so late. Okay, by 7:24 a.m., Malaysia Airlines issues its first public statement announcing that contact has been lost with the flight. So that is 2 hours, basically, after they called their crisis comms team.
Which is still 6 and some odd hours after things actually disappeared.
Crazy. Yes. For the families waiting at Beijing Capital International Airport, the first sign of trouble comes when the flight doesn't arrive. So it was supposed to land at 6:30 a.m. There's nothing. Crickets. Nobody's giving any updates. Nobody has heard anything. The airport screen simply lists the flight as delayed.
Interesting.
As minutes turn to hours with no information, anxiety grows into dread. Some family members try calling their loved ones' mobile phones, calls that ring out unanswered or go straight to voicemail. By mid-morning, as news of the missing plane spreads globally, chaos erupts at the Beijing airport. Distraught relatives demand answers that no one can provide. Malaysian Airlines staff, themselves lacking information, can offer little to no comfort. The scene is one of mounting grief, anger, and confusion as families begin to realize that something terrible has happened. Meanwhile, initial search efforts focus on the South China Sea, where the plane's transponder last pinged. Ships and aircrafts from multiple nations converge on the area, looking for signs of wreckage, debris, any clue to what happened. But they are looking in the wrong place. As search vessels crisscross the South China Sea in vain, a team of engineers at Inmarsat, a British satellite telecommunications company, makes a discovery that will completely change the investigation. Although the airplane's transponder had stopped working and the crew was no longer communicating, the engineers discovered that the aircraft's satellite communication system had continued to function in a limited way, but it was enough for them to get some data. This system wasn't transmitting location data or messages. Instead, it was performing what is called handshakes with satellites overhead. So, let me explain what that means. Commercial airliners are equipped with satellite communication systems that periodically exchange signals with satellites, basically digital check-ins that say, like, are you still there? And then it's like, I'm here. And they just go back and forth.
So kind of the similar way that normal GPS works anyway, is that it just randomly pings when it is near any kind of tower.
Exactly. They're brief. They're brief exchanges. And they occur about once per hour. And they don't contain location data, but they give a confirmation that the connection still exists.
Yeah.
Correct. So you brought up an example of GPS.
Granted, this isn't GPS because they're not getting location.
But think of it more like when your cell phone pings off of a tower, right? Even when you're not making a call. So these engineers discovered that the last complete handshake from the airplane happened at 8:19 a.m. Malaysian time, nearly 7 hours after the plane disappeared from secondary radar.
Oh, so it was still flying around.
Ha ha ha. Weird, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mystery. This revelation is stunning. It proves that Flight 370 had not crashed immediately after losing contact like everybody had originally believed was the case. Instead, it had continued flying for hours, far beyond the range of any coastal radar systems, into one of the most remote regions on Earth.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Imagine these engineers surrounded by computer screens at their London office, realizing what they have found. They are looking at evidence that the missing airliner, presumed crashed in the South China Sea, was actually airborne for hours longer than anyone thought possible. But where the hell had it gone?
Yeah, it's...
So, I mean, that's a really good question.
It creates such a large search radius, too, that it's just almost impossible to find.
Where the fuck did it go? Here's where it gets really interesting from a technical standpoint. And this is where the investigation becomes as much about mathematics and physics as it is about aviation. The satellite data does not provide direct location information. Like we said earlier, it's unfortunately not like GPS, or we would know where the plane is. Yeah. Instead, the engineers have to use innovative analytical techniques never before applied to aircraft tracking, because there's never been anything like this before, so they've never needed to use it.
Yeah.
First, they analyze the time delay between sending a signal and receiving the response. So this gives them the distance from the satellite to the aircraft. Right? Okay.
Yep.
Data point 1.
It's still the same as like drawing the circles over this ping, and then they overlap, and this is your search area.
Yes, but it doesn't give them the direction. So if we picture the satellite standing at the center of a huge circle, right? The plane could be anywhere on the edge of that circle.
Yeah.
So, so we know that it's a certain distance away, but it could be north, south, east, west, or somewhere in between. We don't actually know where on the circle it is.
And of course, being that far away, pinging off of a satellite, it's got to be like a 500-mile circle.
It's going to be a big-ass circle. So this creates a series of possible arcs where the plane could have been during each handshake. Second, they use something called the Doppler effect, which is the same...
Love the Doppler effect.
Oh, I knew you would love this episode. I was like, my nerdy man is going to get down. The same physics principle that makes an ambulance siren change pitch when it passes you. By analyzing slight frequency shifts in the signals, they can determine whether the aircraft was moving toward or away from the satellite.
Oh.
How cool is that?
Well, as Sheldon would say, meow.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Through this complex analysis, they were able to conclude that after flying northwest up the Strait of Malacca, the aircraft made another turn and proceeded south toward the Indian Ocean into one of the most remote regions on the entire planet. The final handshake at 8:19 a.m.
Been in the air for 7 hours.
8:19 a.m. This is almost an hour. No, it's almost 2 hours after the plane was supposed to land.
Mm-hmm. So they were in their reserve fuel and all the stuff.
I mean, yeah, they were. Gosh. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Zach. They probably were in their reserved fuel. At 8:19 a.m., it places the aircraft somewhere along an arc in the southern Indian Ocean, thousands of miles from where the search efforts were currently taking place. An attempt by the satellite to initiate another handshake at 9:15 a.m. receives no response, suggesting that the plane had run out of fuel and crashed shortly after the final ping. So somewhere in between, I guess it
got to that circle, but it wasn't there long enough for it to send the information and get it back.
The analysis represents absolutely groundbreaking work. So huge hats off to this team of brilliant nerds who are sitting around figuring this out, because this is crazy. Never before had such limited satellite data been used to reconstruct an aircraft's flight path. The methods developed by these engineers would later become standard for tracking aircraft over remote areas. Literally groundbreaking work. On March 24th, 16 days after the disappearance, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak makes a somber televised announcement based on the analysis. Flight 370 had ended in the southern Indian Ocean, and there could not be any survivors. For the families, many of whom had been holding on to hope for some sort of rescue, the news is absolutely devastating. Some received the information via text message from Malaysia Airlines.
Well, that's a little bit discourteous.
Text message.
I'm going to break up with you over text.
This would later be widely criticized as insensitive and cruel, because how the fuck do you tell someone that their loved one is dead over a text message?
Look, that guy's biggest fear is women crying, and
no, for shame. Absolutely for shame.
I wonder what the text read exactly. I wish we could have a screenshot of it.
It's just a bunch of the death emojis.
The guy's like,
the skull and crossbone.
No, they all died. Skull and crossbone, skull and crossbone, skull and crossbone.
Sorry, SRY. Okay. What's this?
BRB.
We want to say that we absolutely do not take lightly the enormous tragedy of this incident, and I genuinely can't even put myself in the shoes of these people. We make jokes and laugh because it's horrible. Because it's terrible. Like, I can't even comprehend this kind of loss.
Valid.
Like, horrible. Yep. It is a coping mechanism. Okay.
But not a good one. Our therapist told us.
Oh my gosh. In Beijing, where many families have been maintaining a vigil at a hotel, the news triggers outbursts of both grief and anger. Some family members refuse to accept the conclusion. Where is the proof, they demand? How can you be certain without wreckage, without bodies, without anything? So this is basically the no body, no crime question. Their questions are valid. The satellite data analysis, while compelling and scientifically sound, is indirect evidence. I mean, without the aircraft's actual wreckage.
Yeah, like final location.
Yeah, any physical evidence. The conclusion remains theoretical in its very nature. A mathematical probability rather than a certainty. Yet, it is the best information available, and it redirects the search to one of the most remote and inhospitable regions on Earth. So, here we go. The search.
Yeah, tell me about the search. Were they...
Oh.
So, you said in the Indian Ocean.
We's about to search.
I have all these questions in my head. Like, how far off the shoreline were they? Were they in the middle of nothingness? I mean, everything out there is kind of the middle of nothingness, but still.
For the first search effort, or this new one they're about to launch?
The new one for the Indian Ocean.
Oh, let's go there. The search for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 would become the most extensive and expensive in aviation history. It would span years, and it would cover vast stretches of one of Earth's most hostile environments. Initially dozens of countries contribute resources. So we have military and civilian aircraft from the US, China, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, Australia, and even a handful of others that all join the efforts.
I love when some nations come together.
I mean, this is incredible. Naval vessels equipped with sophisticated sonar systems patrol the suspected crash area. Even commercial satellites are redirected to capture high-resolution images of the ocean surface.
In case there's any floating parts or anything like that.
That's exactly it. They are using all the tricks that we got in this bag.
And there's still days after it all happened, though, so people are still going to be, unfortunately, most likely dead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point, we're over 17 days.
Yeah, even if there's a successful water landing, there's going to be a lot of unaliveness.
So the announcement was made 16 days after the disappearance. However, this search actually started before that announcement was made.
Good. It should be.
Yep. So this was started really on, it was probably started before this, but on March 17th is like rally day. So on March 17th, Australia takes charge of coordinating the search. So they're like, guys, focus up. Let's do this thing. We are in the southern Indian Ocean, which is probably the ocean that I know the least about.
There's probably some critters in the water.
Just a handful. The search area is off the coast of Australia, approximately 3,000 kilometers, which is 1,900 miles southwest of Perth. So, this is literally one of the most isolated places on the planet, period. It's cuckoo bananas.
You can't get much further away from life.
No, it's just, yes, it is literally the middle of nowhere, of water. Picture the search environment here for a moment, folks. Winds regularly exceeding 50 knots, which is right around 58 miles per hour. Or 93 kilometers per hour. So that is very big wind.
Is windy.
That's super fucking windy. Waves tower up to 20 meters. 65 feet tall waves.
It's tall.
The ocean's depths here reach 5,000 meters, which is 16,400 feet, deeper than the wreckage of the Titanic.
Never gonna find that.
The ocean floor here features underwater volcanoes, deep ravines, and plateaus that have never been fully mapped. The nearest land is thousands of miles away, meaning search aircraft can only spend a few hours before having to return to refuel. Between March and April of 2014, the search involves 19 vessels, 345 aircraft, and a crap ton of people that are trying to cover over 4.6 million square kilometers.
That's absurd.
It's about 1.8 million square miles of ocean surface. Crews scan the waters for hours on end, fighting boredom, fatigue, and hypnotic monotony of endless waves. Several times possible debris sightings create brief moments of hope, objects that turn out to be shipping containers, fishing buoys, or just seaweed. The next phase focuses on detecting signals from the aircraft's underwater locator beacons. Hey!
Okay, there's a thought.
Okay, there's a thought. And these are attached to the flight recorders. These beacons have a battery life of 30 days.
Okay, halfway there.
So, there's some urgency. Between April 4th and 8th, a vessel called Ocean Shield, not to be mistaken with Ocean Gate, detects several acoustic signals that match the frequency of flight recorder beacons.
Okay.
Okay, so these detections raise hope big time, with Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott declaring that he was very confident that they had found the black box signals.
Turns out he was wrong.
Tony.
You don't ever put hope out there in a situation like this until you know for sure.
God, Tony. A thorough search of those areas using sonar equipment fails to locate any aircraft debris. The signals are eventually dismissed as false positives, possibly from marine animals.
Whales talking to each other?
Yeah, just a big old whale down there like, hey. Okie dokie. So let's jump forward to October 24th. The beacon is... That's out the question.
I bet you didn't know that I speak whale.
It's kind of hot. I didn't know you spoke another language.
Dory taught me.
Oh. I'm very happy for you. All right, so we don't have the beacons anymore. Authorities begin a methodical underwater search using specialized vessels equipped with side-scan sonar and video cameras. So side-scan sonar works by emitting sound waves that bounce off the seafloor, creating detailed acoustic images. Cool. Capable of detecting objects as small as a suitcase, even in total darkness.
Love that.
This is cool. This underwater search focuses on a priority area of 120,000 square kilometers. So, you know, it's only 46,300 square miles.
Yeah.
Woo, along what investigators call the seventh arc, which is that final handshake location.
Okay. The one that didn't go through or the one that did?
The one that did.
Okay.
This one went through. The eighth didn't. The operation is slow and very painstaking. The underwater vehicles can only cover a very narrow strip of sea floor at a time, moving at a walking pace. So you have over 46,000 square miles to cover.
And you're walking.
And you're at a walking pace. Woof. This phase continues until January 2017, when it's officially suspended after yielding zero evidence. Nothing.
That's so strange.
Despite the best efforts of Australia, Malaysia, China, and experts from around the world, the $160 million search has failed to locate anything.
Yeah, not a scrap of evidence.
Not a scrap. Not one bag of airplane pretzels. Nothing.
Not a single purse or suitcase or anything that was on there with over 200 people.
Nothing. In January 2018, hope, so this is a full year. A year goes by. Hope briefly returns when a private American company called Ocean Infinity begins a new search on a no-find, no-fee basis.
Oh, they were confident.
Using advanced autonomous underwater vehicles operating simultaneously, they search over 112,000 square kilometers, which is over 43,000 square miles, roughly the size of Bulgaria or the entire state of Virginia. This effort also ends without success in June 2018.
Wow.
But physical evidence does eventually surface. So, starting in July of 2015, debris begins washing up on islands in the western Indian Ocean and on the African coast.
Okay.
The first piece, a wing part called a flaperon, is discovered on Reunion Island more than 16 months after the disappearance and over 3,700 kilometers, which is 2,300 miles, from the believed crash site.
Yeah, but with the ocean currents and all that stuff, I mean, things can get washed all over the world from there.
French authorities confirm that serial numbers on the flaperon match Flight 370.
Okay.
Over the following years, about 20 additional pieces are recovered from beaches in Madagascar, South Africa, and some other locations. 18 of these items are confirmed to be very likely or almost certain from Flight 370. Some pieces show evidence of fire damage. Others appear to have been torn apart by tremendous force. These scattered pieces confirm the aircraft crashed in the southern Indian Ocean, but they don't provide enough to locate the main wreckage. The ocean had scattered the debris across thousands of miles of coastline. It's like finding pieces of a shipwreck washed up on different continents and trying to figure out where the hell the ship actually sank. For 7 years, the wreckage of Flight 370 remained undiscovered. Its 239 passengers and crew resting somewhere in the depths of the Indian Ocean. Families continued to push for answers. Investigators continued to analyze data, and amateur enthusiasts continued to develop new theories. But there was no active search. Then, in December of 2024, something pretty cool happened. The Malaysian government announced that it had agreed to resume the search with Ocean Infinity. And the search officially began again in February of this year, 2025.
Oh, nice. Okay.
This revival represents more than just another attempt. It is a fundamentally different approach with new technology, refined data analysis, and a remarkable financial agreement that really speaks volumes about the searchers' confidence. So Ocean Infinity has agreed to a no fine, no fee contract with Malaysian authorities, and they will receive payment, reportedly around $70 million.
If they find it. Wow.
If they succeed in locating the aircraft. If they find nothing, despite spending 18 months, which is what has been slated for this search effort, they get nothing.
I can't even imagine who can fund
Nothing.
this project.
18 months, won't get a dime. Yeah, so Ocean Infinity must really believe that they've got something figured out that hasn't been
I mean, they've just
shared.
got tech that they haven't shared with anybody else. I'm guessing somebody major up in the company wrote code and came up with their own thing, but
I mean, I guess so, but this would cost that company a ton of money.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, like,
It's clearly just
probably
some rich dude that owns it.
multi-million dollar operation.
I mean, just the fuel has got to be multi-millions.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So what has changed since 2018? For one, Ocean Infinity has significantly expanded its technology. So during their first search, which they
were brand
did,
new.
yes.
And they still had stuff that nobody else had.
Yeah, and they were still able to cover a huge area in a very short period of time.
I think you said like 112 of the 116 square kilometers or something.
They surveyed almost the same area than the original search had covered in 2.5 years, and they did it in 3 months.
Yeah.
Since then, their capabilities have only gotten better. But perhaps more importantly, there have been major advances in analyzing all of the data pieces that we have. So several independent research teams have been refining their understanding of the aircraft's likely flight path using the satellite data combined with some new analytical methods. One particularly fascinating approach comes from Richard Godfrey, who is an avionics systems engineer who has been using something called WSPR, which is WSPR. I know, it's so cool. It's WSPR, but it's WSPR. But it actually stands for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. And this is a protocol originally developed for amateur radio enthusiasts to test how radio transmissions propagate over long distances. Like when a radio signal encounters an obstacle like an aircraft, it creates a disturbance that gets logged in an online database. data that can be analyzed years later. So, he's trying to figure out where, I guess, this flight got interfered with somebody's signal. So his whisper analysis shows a different flight path than what was previously assumed. I know.
Which, honestly, if I was ocean whatever.
I keep wanting to call it Ocean Gate, and it's absolutely not that. It's Ocean Infinity.
So if I was Ocean Infinity, I would actually like somebody to come up with a theory that says, search somewhere else over here.
100%.
Because, like, we already searched over here and we didn't find anything. I don't really want to go back to the same spot and waste money again.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. So while conventional analyses assumed that our aircraft followed a relatively straight heading southward, Godfrey's model shows a complex path with turns and deviations, possibly to avoid busy airways, which would be consistent with somebody actively trying to evade detection.
Which makes the most sense to me, too, because in my head, and, you know, you make fun of me for jumping in on conspiracy stuff and all.
No, I love it. Give it to me.
The transponder went dead. They had weird erratic turns that they would never allow to happen in autopilot. So they were already in manual, knowing they were going to do some weird stuff. So it sounds like there was some kind of plan.
I can't wait until we get to the theory section of this, because you're going to have a heyday.
I'm going to debunk them.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So basically what Godfrey is explaining here is the airplane version of serpentine.
Oh.
Like horse just.
Over, under, over.
Yep. So most intriguingly, the whisper data indicates the aircraft may have performed a figure 8 pattern shortly before running out of fuel, as if whoever was in control was looking for ships or other traffic below that might witness the aircraft's final moments.
Or like they had a target that they were trying to crash into.
Or that. And here's where it gets really interesting. This area matches coordinates found on Captain Zahari's home flight simulator.
Bump, bump. That was Law & Order SVU, in case you guys didn't know.
This is the part where I was like, Zach is going to love this. Okay, a simulated flight path on his computer passes through the very area where the whisper data suggests that the flight made its final maneuvers.
See, here's the thing. You don't end up in that remote of an area by accident. And it's like playing Grand Theft Auto and just be like, I'm going to go to the middle of the ocean. You don't do that. There's nothing out there. It's boring.
I used to love to do that.
Well, you're boring.
I just thought it was fun when you were doing like the skydiving one and you could just like skydive into the middle of nowhere. Okay. The new search is focusing on 3 different zones. 2 rectangular areas on either side of the previously searched region along the 7th arc, and a smaller area further north that corresponds with Richard Godfrey's whisper analysis. So now we've got 3. We're still expanding on that arc, the 7th arc, but now we're having some very interesting data coming in that corresponds with the flight simulator investigation stuff that we found. It's some interesting stuff to take into consideration.
Honestly, if I was an investigator, I would, one, compare and see how many test flights he did to that same weird area that he would never fly to for a commercial flight. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be like, okay, well, like, these are the coordinates of this area. I'm just going to go straight to this area.
Okay, I love that. Yep. Okay, so here is what is so cool, Zach. So the vessel that they are using, which is the Ocean Infinity's Armada 7806, They have a website where you can follow the search.
Oh, gosh.
And they have a little map where you can like see where it's been and see where it's going and see the phases. What is interesting to note is that the search, like we're recording this right now in October, the search is on hold until November 2025. So I'm not entirely sure what happened because they don't provide information on why it's on hold. However, it just says currently on hold until November. But anyway, you at home can go and look this up. All you need to do is just look up Armada tracking and it'll pop up. It's pretty cool. For the families of the 239 victims, this renewed effort represents a desperately needed chance for closure after 11 years of questions without answers. As one family member said, "We can't lay this to rest before the wreckage is actually found." I mean, these families have endured more than a decade of theories, false hope, broken promises. Yeah. And I mean, for many, I think finding that wreckage, it isn't just about solving a mystery. It is about having a place to be able to direct grief. And, you know, for many of the people on this plane, they are very religious and they come from a culture where burial and, you know, being
the whole ceremony,
100%, like that is so critical, and they can't do that. Okay, so we've gotten to what will be Zach's favorite part of this story. The theories. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, of course, there was an investigation, right? There was a report. It was released in July 2018 after more than 4 years of investigation, and it reaches the most frustrating end of any story that we've talked about yet on this podcast. And it literally says, quote, "The investigation team is unable to determine the real cause for the disappearance." End quote. Like, what the fuck? The fuck? However, it does make one critical determination. The aircraft's turns and subsequent flight path were not due to any system malfunction, which means someone, a human, was in control of the aircraft when it diverted from its planned route. The report explicitly states the change in flight path likely resulted from manual inputs.
Which means there was either somebody on the plane that, you know, if it was a passenger taking everybody hostage, having something weird go on, or the man that was already in control had a plan.
You ready to dive into theories, babe?
Let's do it.
Okay. Zach loves a conspiracy theory, you guys. This is like his bread and butter. So we're going to do it.
You make me sound like a psychopath.
You're not.
Let me just clarify, and I think people should be on board with this. If the shoe fits, wear it. Like, if things make sense and what others have told you doesn't, you should question things.
I'm so in love with you.
Whatever.
Okay, we're going to talk into theory one. Theory one, deliberate action by the captain. And every time when I wrote that, it made me think of How I Met Your Mother because of the captain.
Oh.
Okay, so let's start with the most controversial theory and just rip this thing off like a Band-Aid. It is that Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah deliberately crashed this aircraft in an act of mass murder-suicide. This theory has gained significant traction among investigators, though it remains deeply contested. I do need to say that this is a theory.
This is not factual.
This is not factual. There is, there has been no declaration or, anything saying that this for sure happened.
There was no notings from him. There was no...
We're just looking into what gave people this idea. The evidence pointing in this direction is circumstantial. However, it is very troubling, Zach. First, there is the simulator data.
Yeah.
In 2016, investigators revealed that they had recovered data from Captain Zahari's home flight simulator showing a flight path remarkably similar to the 370's suspected route, flying up the Strait of Malacca and ending in the southern Indian Ocean with fuel exhaustion. Why would that be on a pilot's computer?
Yeah, why would you test that?
Now, before we go any further, I need to address something important. Having a home flight simulator and practicing unusual scenarios does not make somebody a mass murderer.
No.
I did some weird things.
But I raised my eyebrow at you.
I did some weird things to my Sims back in the day. It does not make me I mean, I used to do the cheat codes all the time where I would like remove the door and just watch them like, you know, go crazy inside of their houses because they couldn't escape. I am not a murderer. Like I did that because I was curious of what would happen. Okay. So many professional pilots have simulators at home. They practice emergency procedures, unusual approaches, and challenging scenarios. It's a way to stay sharp.
It is,
many
absolutely.
Could argue.
But if I had a simulator showing that I drove off of Pier 13 from the edge of this whatever town, and then that's what actually happened to me, it seems a little fishy.
Okay, so that's the exact argument that people are making. They're like, okay, like we get that. We totally get that. However, the very specific nature of this simulated flight.
It was weird turns. It's
weird.
Yeah.
It ended in fuel exhaustion in the middle of fucking nowhere. Red flag. There's a red flag on the plane.
But not the middle of nowhere. The middle of where he practiced it.
Yes, but like, why would you practice that? Okay. So anyway, the Malaysian police investigation identified Captain Sahari as the prime suspect if human intervention is proven. Mm-hmm. So we can't even prove that human intervention was like primary.
Correct, yeah.
However, if it was, he would be the prime suspect. Former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, our guy who thought that we were so close. Testing 1 2. Okay.
The guy that was so confident.
Yeah, Prime Minister Tony Abbott stated in 2020, my very clear understanding from the very top levels of the Malaysian government is that from very, very early on, they thought it was murder-suicide by the pilot. So, this guy has no media training and loves to say things. Our good old Prime Minister.
Somebody stop him.
Tony Abbott. Okay, but here's where it gets complicated. What would be the motive? What would be the motive? He had no history of mental health issues. There was not a suicide note. There were no financial troubles. His marriage was good. It was stable. His children were doing well. They were loved. By all accounts, he was a dedicated professional who loved his life and loved his occupation. Some have speculated political motivation. He was a vocal supporter of opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim, who was controversially convicted of sodomy. Widely seen as a political motivated charge just hours before Flight 370 departed.
Yeah, but I can't really take that into account because it was practiced beforehand, long before this ever happened.
Ha ha ha. I love that. That is really good thinking, Zach.
I told you, I'm here to debunk.
And also, if you're going to make a political statement, wouldn't you make a political statement?
Rather than just disappearing?
You just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, do something. Send a message. Leave a note. Like, give us some sort of information. Nothing. Others point to the precise timing and location of the turns, done at waypoints between air traffic control sectors, avoiding radar coverage, seeming to show intimate knowledge of the airspace. So this level of planning would be consistent with somebody who knew exactly what they were doing and had very much...
Like someone that's been a pilot for a long, long time.
The counter argument to this is that we are looking at patterns where none may exist. Confirmation bias is powerful. So once you suspect somebody, it can be very easy to get tunnel vision and only
It's the same
force
thing with
things.
math. If you already have the answer, it's easy to come up with the solution written out.
Many professional pilots and aviation experts have defended Zahari's reputation, arguing that we are criminalizing normal pilot behavior and assuming guilt without any proof.
And as a pilot, I totally get that stance.
What about First Officer Farik? What do we know about him?
I assume that he was incapacitated.
Well, he was in the cockpit too. The evidence here is even weaker.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 27 years old, recently engaged. By all accounts, he was so excited about his future.
Yeah, he was just starting his life and his career.
I mean, investigators could find nothing in his background that would suggest any sort of suicidal ideation or desire to harm people. Some have pointed to the fact that he was heard making the final radio call, "Good night, Malaysian 370, as potentially significant. But this was standard procedure, and his voice, again, showed zero signs of stress or anything unusual. The argument against Farik being responsible is essentially the absence of any motive whatsoever, and the difficulty he would have faced in overpowering or incapacitating Captain Zahari, who was more experienced and also a bigger guy.
The captain was bigger?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people saying, like, Farik had nothing to do with it, they're literally saying, like, what would he have done? Like, he could not have overpowered Captain Zahari.
Yeah.
So if one of them is responsible, it's probably not Farik. Theory 3, Zach, hijacking.
That was already in my thought. I said
You
that.
mentioned it. You did. Okay, early in the investigation, when it was discovered that 2 passengers had boarded using stolen passports, hijacking became a very strong possibility, because the post 9/11 world has taught us that if something weird happens on a plane, it's either snakes or it's terrorism.
Snakes.
But
here's my problem with that. There was no country that took claim for it. There were no demands. There was no statement at all. Like, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense.
correct.
Which is my thing with conspiracies. It has to make sense.
It's about to make even less sense, because
Right.
the 2 passengers with the stolen passports, they were Iranian,
Oh,
but they were asylum seekers.
okay.
They were trying to reach Europe. They had no ties to terrorism. In fact, they were trying to
Get away
escape.
from their lives that
Yes.
were
Yeah.
very controlled and not good.
A thorough investigation of all 227 passengers and all crew members found zero connection to any terrorist organizations. Moreover, the technical aspects of what happened, the deliberate shutting off of systems, the precise navigation, avoiding radar coverage, it's somebody with intimate knowledge
Yeah.
of both the Boeing 777 systems and also regional airspace.
I'm just going to be honest, it's pointing more and more and more to the captain.
I mean, could there have been a struggle for control of the aircraft? Maybe somebody tried to force their way into the cockpit. The crew fought back. We've seen that before. We had that with the FedEx.
Yeah.
But this doesn't explain the hours of continued flight afterward, the deliberate turns, the lack of any sort of distress signal. I mean, if you were being attacked, wouldn't you immediately, when you get a chance, let
Somebody.
air traffic control know that you're being attacked?
Yeah. Here's my thought on it. The way that they were navigating through at all these checkpoints, making sure that they were flying under the radar or away from the radar, whatever, that is very insider knowledge. Like, you can't accidentally do that over and over and over. So it had to have been planned to be that way. only one guy that has all that information.
I'm going to throw a wrench.
Do it.
Because we are assuming that a human was under control of this aircraft the entire time, had control.
Well, you said it couldn't have done what it was doing if it was an autopilot.
The exact verbiage is that it likely wouldn't have happened, not that it was impossible. So let's just have a little fun and let's put our creativity caps on and think like, maybe something weird happened. Let's go. Some experts have proposed that a fire or catastrophic mechanical failure could explain the loss of communication and the change in course. So the aircraft was carrying 221 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries in its cargo hold. Hey.
It's a lot of lithium.
It's a lot of lithium. There was evidence of some fire damage on parts that have surfaced and been found. Perhaps a fire broke out. The crew disabled various systems, trying to fight it, turned back toward an airport for an emergency landing, but they were overcome with smoke before they were able to completely maneuver it.
And kept flying for a lot of hours.
Well, okay, so look, this theory has appeal because I think a lot of people have a hard time
Painting somebody as a bad guy without knowing information.
Finding a connection between this guy who had no reason to do this, and we don't have any, he left nothing, no pieces for us.
We have nothing on paper. Like, people frequently have secret lives. He could have had some weird black market, loan shark that he owed a bunch of money to. Okay,
well, this theory falls apart very quickly, unfortunately, for people that really like it. So
why? Because it took me 1.5 seconds.
Yes. So number one, like you brought up, had this happened, the plane likely wouldn't have been able to fly for another 7 hours. Second, the fact that the transponder was turned off at a specific moment, the sharp turn at specific locations. I mean, and then no distress call.
Yeah.
Being made, your plane's on fire, and you're not even going to try to be like, hello, Niner, we're literally on fire.
Well, here's the thing. There, I think eventually will be a clearer picture, because it's just like somebody, this is a little morbid, but just like somebody dumping a body in a really remote area, eventually it gets stumbled upon.
Yeah.
Eventually it will be found.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's some kind of information in the black box.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But imagine what this world will do when we find that.
I mean, I will lose my mind. I'll probably have to take the day off work.
We'll have another episode.
Oh, duh. You guys will know. As soon as we know, you guys will know. Okay. Are you ready for our final theory?
All right, let's see. There's only one that I can't really debunk yet, so let's do this.
Zach, do you remember one of our first episodes where we covered the Helios Airways Flight 522 in the year 2005?
I remember the name, but I don't remember details.
You're good. This is the flight where everybody on board lost consciousness due to hypoxia.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yes. And then they sent fighter jets up and they saw everybody passed out.
Yeah. Everybody
and there
was
was
slumped.
nothing they could do, except for that one guy. But there was nothing that they could do to try and save this airplane. Okay. Many people theorize that something similar could have happened to this flight. Now, there are a lot of issues with this theory. However, if we just, say,
if you forget the facts that we actually know, which there's few of, then sure, it's pretty logical.
I mean, I really want to know if the aircraft was on autopilot when it was making those figure eights.
which was only at the very end in the eighth hour.
But remember what happened before the pilots lost consciousness. They made in the Helios, for the Helios flight, folks, this is what I'm referring to. They did erratic, not logical things as pilots, things that would not make sense for a pilot to do, right? And in this flight, erratic things happened, things that did not make sense for a pilot to normally do. Because before you lose consciousness from hypoxia, your brain don't work good.
Yeah, you're like running a weird high. Okay, but I'm gonna shoot this down real quick, and I love you. The precision you have to fly at to run their exact path, for when we did have the path, their hard corners, their avoiding radar, you can't accidentally do that. So it doesn't work.
Oh, Zach, you're so right. Here's why this is debunked. This isn't it, you guys. The sharp turns, the deliberate shutting off of systems, the precise navigation, all of this would have happened before hypoxia could have incapacitated them. Just from timeline of like takeoff, even if the second they took off, it was starting, it wouldn't have been significant enough for the erratic moves to happen at the time.
Well,
that they ended up happening.
They went from fine 1 minute to literally the next minute, everything was weird.
Correct. And even if the captain deliberately depressurized the cabin to incapacitate everybody else, we're still back to the pilot doing a thing. So...
But also then we're back to he wouldn't have been able to continue on for so many hours.
Unless he had one of those air mask things.
Well, yeah, but those, they tell you how long that it will flow oxygen for.
God, we should have listened to the Helios episode before recording this. But anyway, if you're curious about how long those last, go check out our Helios episode. It's one of my favorites that we've ever done. All right, Zach. Well, are you frustrated? Because I am. And here is what we are left with. The evidence overwhelmingly suggests that somebody deliberately flew this plane into the southern Indian Ocean. Things are just too precise. The timing is too perfect. The system's disabled too methodically for this to be. I mean, I love a good Swiss cheese theory, but this is like 1,000 pounds of Swiss cheese where it would all have to work together. And if this is your first episode, the Swiss cheese theory is the idea that in aviation often incidents happen because when you line up multiple slices of Swiss cheese, you're able to sometimes get one hole to match up all the way through. So many things have to happen simultaneously for something to happen, but this is on steroids. This is crazy. So the reality is that it's looking fairly likely that Captain Zahari took control of the aircraft, locked the first officer out, or otherwise incapacitated him, as you did bring up earlier, disabled communication systems, and flew this plane with all of those innocent passengers into the ocean. But why, Zach?
Well, here's the thing, is in my brain, you don't really have to get that hung up on the why. There are people out there that are just bad and have never had an issue until the moment that they did. Again,
all of this is alleged and we have no evidence, but...
Yeah. I'm just saying human nature is a weird thing.
Evidence, but we don't have real evidence.
There's no concrete evidence. You could never win this in court, but...
I mean, it's just crazy. So Malcolm Brenner, who's a leading aviation accident investigator, he actually referenced a case that we have already covered. A 1994 incident where a FedEx flight engineer who was facing termination smuggled weapons aboard and attempted to crash a DC-10. The crew fought him off, and they managed to handle and land the aircraft. But the point is clear. Crazy shit like this can happen. It can happen. The people can have a bad day or a bad week, and people with no obvious warning signs can commit extraordinary acts of violence. And in some of these cases, the pilots had documented psychiatric problems and had carefully planned their actions. And in others, there were no warning signs at all, period. And I have another case that I'm going to tell you in, I don't know, probably next month, that is a very similar theme of a pilot who does something that is unthinkable. And, you know, for me, I always say, like, I don't know if I always say, I don't know how many times I've said it on the podcast, so I can't say I've always said it, but I am obviously very aware of things like fatigue cracking when I am boarding a plane, or I count how far away I am from the nearest exit literally on seats. But more than that, I think about and obsess over the mental state of the pilots, because they are really the ones, push come to shove, that will get you to your destination.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's terrifying. And this particular story just, it breaks my heart. And it really makes me think about, you know, I hope if you are a pilot out there and you're listening to this, please take care of your mental health. You know, just, it's hugely important for everybody. But if your job is transporting hundreds of people safely, really make sure you're taking care of yourself.
You and flight control. All of you.
God,
take a day.
Control. Oh my God, that's a huge air traffic control, big time. Please. Woof. That should be mandatory mental health for flight controls. Okay, guys, that's our story. Zach, that's it. That's the story for today.
Well, there's more information to be gathered. I am a believer that eventually the truth comes out.
Man, I'm hopeful for Ocean Infinity.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they'll get to collect a paycheck. Who knows? But I am hopeful for the families. Mm-hmm. That way they can at least have an understanding of what happened.
Yeah.
And they can just put it to rest and just be like, all right, at least we found out.
That's great.
But more so, if there are recordings of stuff, I want to know it.
Man, what I would give.
Picture this. This pilot, who's been going forever, suddenly develops a split personality at an old age, and that is a psychopathic split.
Whoa, that would be a really crazy twist that I don't think anybody saw coming. Only you. If you bet on that, you'd be millionaires. Okay, folks, this one's a sad one, but it's an incredible aviation mystery. I mean, it is the greatest one probably of all time. So,
especially because it's still unsolved.
It's unsolved. We do not know what happened. So, if you enjoyed this, please recommend us to a friend. That's really our only marketing. I don't have time to do social media, so we're literally a full-on word-of-mouth based podcast.
And mostly, we just do this so that we can hang out together every once in a while.
We really do. We do it for the fun of it, which is really awesome. So, please join us next time when we will be exploring another transportation disaster story. Until then, remember to stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for the unexpected, because not every trip reaches its final destination.
Bye.
Bye.